What if I told you the man the world knew as a financier and predator was actually chasing something far darker than underage girls? What if the Black Book, the island, the plane, were just the surface, and the real receipts buried in the DOJ files, flight logs, leaked emails, and official university reports point to cloning, biolabs, Neanderthal DNA, human tissue harvesting, and maybe even immortality? Stay with me, because once you see the documents, you can't unsee them. Jeffrey Epstein wasn't just paying professors for the general science. Harvard's own 2020 investigative report confirms he donated massive $6.5 million in 2003 to establish the Program for Evolutionary Dynamics, and a total of over $9 million between 1998 and 2007 to support research tied to evolutionary biology and genetics. Why? Because he was obsessed with transhumanism, upgrading the human species through genetic engineering and AI. The New York Times reported in 2019, based on interviews with his acquaintances and public documents, that Epstein openly discussed this as a modern form of eugenics. But he didn't stop at theory. Court documents, witness statements, and reports show that he talked openly about implanting his own DNA into embryos, creating a baby farm on his New Mexico ranch to seed the next generation of his genetic material, and collecting genetic samples from those around him. The New York Times detailed how he confides these plans to scientists, envisioning impregnating women at his ranch. No evidence had happened, but the vision was there. Now look at the files the DOJ actually released. Millions of pages including emails and notes from his safe. He's discussing COVID-19 origins before it went global. Some now speculate ties to Dr. Fauci and possibilities Epstein managed to infuse his DNA into all COVID vaccines and a strange need to disperse his DNA throughout the populace. And if true, what could he have possibly gained from that? In another email, he asks about synthetic viruses. He's requesting samples of human tissue, specifically targeted groups. And then, the kicker. He hints of fascination with Neanderthal genome sequencing showing up in those files, tied to his genetic interests. Reports note discussions around reactivating archaic genes for traits like strength or longevity. Ideas floating in elite transhumanist circles he funded. Why Neanderthal? Because certain circles believe reactivating dormant Neanderthal DNA could unlock enhanced human capabilities, traits they want engineered back in. Ghislaine Maxwell wasn't just the recruiter. Flight logs released in the Maxwell trial and DOJ jumps show her on trips linked to genetics and scientists. She was in meetings where Epstein pitched his seed bank ideas. And when authorities raided Little St. James, what did they find besides hard drives and computers? Medical equipment, refrigerators, vials, documents and raid footage and reports from 2019 onward. The official line? Experiments, but what kind? Especially with his known push into genetics and tissue preservation. Underground labs have been whispered about for years. Dulce, Montauk, Pine Gap. Epstein had the money, the connections, the blackmail, to fund his own private versions, off-grid and deniable. And the files hint at it. Payments to biotech startups with no public product, shell companies buying cryogenic equipment, invoices for preservation solutions matching organ tissue storage, all surfacing in those DOJ releases. So ask yourself, was Epstein removed because he knew too much about trafficking? Or because he knew too much about engineering the next generation of elites? The documents are there. Harvard reports, DOJ emails, court filings, major government investigations. The receipts exist. I just hope the public isn't too distracted by the headlines to read them. If this shook you, dig into the files yourself. Harvard's Epstein report, the DOJ massive document dumps, the New York Times exposés. The truth isn't hidden. It's just been ignored.